Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this session. Thank you for joining us on this webinar on rethinking the employee engagement equation in today's workplace. I'm Manali Vyas, your host today for this webinar. So, guys, this session will be 45 minutes along with your Q&A session. This webinar is conducted by Synergita. Synergita is a cloud-based performance management software which not only automates to resolve all employee performance review pain points, but also enables employee engagement, employee training, and development through its unique features. So let me introduce you to our speakers today. The first presenter for today's session will be Ms. Grace Quek. She's an employee engagement coach and an ex-senior VP of Semcorp Singapore. She has an education background in business and some 20 years experience in corporate planning, business strategy, and business development. The recent 10 years of her career has been dedicated in the people space, specifically organization development. Throughout her career, Grace has seen business groups try change management options that are overcomplicated, cumbersome to implement, and don't deliver lasting results. The second presenter for today's session will be Ms. Joyce Lim. Joyce has worked with several IT MNCs for the past 10 years, and now she heads the business operations for Synergita in Singapore, which includes the sales and business development, supporting clients from various MNCs, and see through their automation of performance management initiation process to enable teams and individuals to contribute to continuous improvement of business processes and performance. Now, before handing over the control to Grace and Joyce, here are some housekeeping instructions that I would like to share with you all. All phones are set to mute. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat window located beside the presentation panel. So we have received few questions from the registrants, which will be answered by the speaker during Q&A session. You can also continue typing the questions in the chat window beside so that we can answer them at the end of the session. In case if you do not receive answers to your questions today, you will certainly receive answers via email shortly. Thank you for your participation and hope you'll enjoy the session. Over to you, Grace and Joyce.
Thank you, Manali. Hi, Grace. It's our great honor to have you at Synergita today. I remember when I first met you, there was something that you said which caught my attention. Let me recall. You said that implementing change management need not be complicated and getting employees engaged and aligned need not be cumbersome with no lasting results.
Hey Joyce, how are you?
Great.
Okay, I remember what I said, and I tell you why I remember that very well. That's because I find myself very passionate about this subject of employee engagement. And I feel that implementing change does not have to be so troublesome and does not have lasting results. But before I continue, Joyce, I have a question for you. Tell me, what do you understand in your mind by the words employee engagement?
I feel that it's a very large word because getting employees engaged actually means a lot. It ranges from even knowing the employee, which category, which age, and which department, how their personality is like. So there's actually a wide area of topics that we can actually talk about in terms of employee engagement.
Very good. Yeah. You know, when people ask me about employee engagement, I usually like to share how I think those words mean to me. I know I'm engaged when I'm happy with the role I'm in. I'm proud to be with the organization I'm working for. And most of all, I'm willing and I'm able to go the extra mile. And why? So to
Joyce, you are muted. Hello. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I pressed the mute button by accident.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Grace, I think that was very well said. Can you repeat that? The part about going the extra mile for the organization?
Oh, all right. Yeah. Employee engagement is about having the emotional commitment to work, and the company that we work for. And it's also about the willingness that we put in to have that discretionary effort towards the organization goals. Recently, in fact, last year, Joyce, do you remember that we had some of our medical records compromised at the hospital and all that?
Oh, yes.
So if you ask me, what happened was it's just symptoms of a lack of employee engagement. Look at the reasons that they gave. The CEO says that we should improve work culture, processes, and take more initiative. Taking more initiative is about going the extra mile. And the way we operate, the way we do things, that's our behavior. So all these are symptoms to me about a lack of employee engagement.
Right.
Take a look at this picture, Joyce.
Yes.
What jumps out at you when you look at this picture?
When we're talking about employee engagement, I can see that this guy is totally disengaged.
And when we talk about disengagement, we're also saying that how do we feel? We're tired. Somebody said that they feel burnout.
Right.
They lack energy and passion.
He's just lost in space.
So the question I have for the audience out there, do you have people like that in your company? What about this picture? What do you see there, Joyce?
I see the colleagues clapping for one of the colleagues. Everyone is smiling. They look happy. It seems like they're celebrating something or appreciating somebody.
Well, we definitely get this sense that there's acknowledgement from colleagues. They're very supportive. They might even have your back. Right. You feel that you're recognized for your achievements. So for the audience out there, I'm sure you've also seen similar people in your working life this way.
Exactly.
Now, I would like to actually, when we talk about employee engagement, put them into 3 buckets. Actively disengaged people. They're quite easy to spot them, Do you know why?
Why?
They complain a lot. They will not do anything to help or change things, and they can be quite disruptive. The next bucket I'd like to talk about are the disengaged people. These are the employees that do just enough, what's expected of them. They just do enough to stay. They will not volunteer. They're quite silent. And do you know the only time that you hear from them is when they tender?
True. Okay.
And the next bucket, the engaged employees. I would say that these employees do more than is expected. They are mostly enthusiastic. They're willing and able to go the extra mile. I see them being energetic. They put up their hands to volunteer. What companies don't want them?
Yeah. Makes me want to ask how? How do we do it?
Yes. And can you imagine if we can get all our employees to move from actively disengaged, and then to being engaged? Can you imagine what business outcomes we can achieve?
Yeah. There's no limit to that.
Exactly.
Right.
Do you know how many percent of people are actually highly engaged? Gallup has only found 15% that are highly engaged. These employees.
Globally?
Yes, that's
Wow.
right. And are you curious about the Singapore figures?
Yes, tell me that.
Singapore employees are the least engaged when this study was done. And they were comparing workers in China, India, Indonesia, Thailand, and the Philippines. Not only that, Singapore employees are among the unhappiest when they polled 7 APAC countries. 23% of those surveys, or those people who were surveyed, feel that they were unmotivated in their jobs and their skills were not used effectively. And I tell you one more thing that's very sad. 45% of Singaporeans are unhappy at work. If I can actually draw an analogy of a boat, like this. Let's imagine the organization is like a boat and the employees are rowing together. There will be a percentage of people who are engaged. Then you also have the next set of people, a large majority of them, who are disengaged. And there will be a small percentage who are actively disengaged. But what happens when only two people are rowing the boat? What do you think, Joyce?
The boat is very heavy and it will move really very slowly.
You're right. So whatever goals that the company wants to achieve, it will take a longer time for them to get there.
Right.
And not only that, the two persons rowing the boat, after a while, they get very, very tired.
Exactly.
The actively disengaged people who are in the organization can drop anchor and they can slow down the whole process. But this is just an analogy, but what does it mean in business outcomes? So this can affect profitability.
Definitely.
You're going to have hiring problems, higher staff turnover, your customer ratings will actually drop. Needless to say, productivity will fall. And not only that, Joyce, you've heard people say, right, I've got no time.
Every time, yes.
That's right. So what does this mean in terms of business outcomes, like I said? It means 34% of your salaries can be wasted if you have disengaged, actively disengaged people in your organization. What about the business implications if a large percentage of your employees are not engaged? 50 to 250% of their salaries are affected. I'm talking about costs, such as separation costs, when you have exit interviews, administrative costs. There are also vacancy costs when you have to have 10 people coming in, hiring costs, acquisition costs, placement costs. What about your onboarding? All in all, it's all cost to the company. Now, what happens when you have a company with engaged workforce? You're going to see things like less absenteeism, higher productivity, higher sales. And all in all, Gallup has found that companies are 21% better in profitability. Okay, I'm going to ask you this. What do companies normally do when they want to get their teams motivated or engaged?
They go for team bonding.
Yes.
Family outings.
Yes.
Right. D&D, dinner and dance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are the resources that they spend on in order to get staff engaged and motivated.
Right.
But if I were to draw up an analogy of this little fish in this fishbowl, and we take this fish out of their current environment into a clean environment. We always go off-site, right?
Right.
We go to, let's say, off-site place, whether it's another hotel or somewhere that's quiet, conducive. We think we'll try to clean the minds of employees. We take them out. Okay. And after that, we spend 1 or 2 days, we come back to the office. We are all charged up. But imagine this fish comes back to murky water. Nothing has changed. And worse still, they become disillusioned and even more disengaged. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with going for off-site meetings and all. It all works. But the point is this, the water that they're in, the environment they're working in, is still the same.
Right.
So what we need to do is to clean up the pond, the bowl, the fish bowl, so that we all can grow together. We activate every single person, and the bowl gets cleaned together. And when this happens, there's growth. So what am I saying here? We need an inclusive approach. And this is done through very simple, logical, relational processes. And these are the things that help move the needle for business outcomes. So imagine a new employee joining a company. At stage one, he's like a sheep. He's looking to fit in. By the time they get to stage two, they realize that, hey, this organization doesn't seem to be like the values that I have. Doesn't matter. I can't wait for everybody. I'm going to look after myself. I'm going to take care of me and me only. So there's this thing about being self-focused. But if we can get into stage three, where me becomes a we are looking after others, we're looking out for others. Imagine each employee exhibiting those leadership qualities. And when I talk about leadership, what am I looking at? I'm talking about including others in decisions that impact the business. I'm talking about engaging others at a personal level, being concerned about their progress. So wouldn't it be wonderful if we can help individuals move from being a sheep to the level of we? So I have a question for the audience. What needs to change in your organization to improve and become number one among your competitors or in your industry? Take a little while to think through. What needs to change in your organization to improve, to become number one among your competitors or in your industry? We have tried this in seminars, we have tried this in meetings. It's a very, very brief exercise, but inevitably, we notice that all the answers that the people come up with are very hardware oriented. So a key driver of employee engagement is very heart related. The ideas that they come up with, having a better performance appraisal system, having better procedures, governance and all that, they're still there. But when we made that comparison, a lot of the suggestions come up by staff tend to be on the hardware side and less on the brainware side. So the question I have is, why do companies spend so much of their effort, their resources on brainware kind of change? There are 6 steps to employee engagement. And the way we do it is that we want to get them to be emotionally connected to 3 things. Emotionally connected to the company, where the company is heading and proud to be part of. We want them to be connected to the leadership. They respect their leaders and have trust in them. They also have close relationships with one another. And the way to do this is also activating a set of keys. We use 12 keys altogether, and depending on the requirements of organizations, the business outcomes they want to achieve, we activate different sets of keys. Let me give you a demonstration. Say, for example, when somebody wants to lose weight, they join a weight loss salon. What's the first thing they do, Joyce?
They will measure their weight.
Yes, they set benchmarks.
Yeah.
And in the program that I worked with employees, we start off with asking them questions. We give them a set of questions, very simple. It takes just 8-10 minutes to do it. If they take anything longer than that, they're also disengaged. And I want to show you the kind of questions that we ask. At work, I clearly understand what's expected of me. In my team, I'm surrounded by people who share my values. My teammates have my back. I know I'll be recognized for excellent work. All these questions point to whether my work is being valued. Why am I doing this job? Am I comfortable in the environment I'm in? Do the people have similar values to me? So once we get the benchmark, we move on to the next step, and that's to get their buy-in. In our terms, we call it collective accountability. So you see, I have marked the next key, which is collective behavioral benchmarking. And how do we do that? collective buy-in and accountability. I have a question for the audience, and that is, what are your organization's values? Where do we often see them, Joyce?
Definitely, I see a lot when I visit companies. It's on the walls, or it could be on a portrait hanging along the walls.
Yeah.
You're right.
Most of the time, companies have those values written down. And I'm sure the audience will also know what I'm talking about. You can see them on the walls. You can see them at your website, in the gifts that you give your clients, so on and so forth. But how many of us actually remember them? And most importantly, how many of us are exhibiting those values? And to me, right, it's about how work gets done in your organization. It's about how I behave when no one is looking or is looking. What do I mean? Very often, employees are not even embarrassed to say, hey, you know, I have to stay back late because this is the only way I can show that I'm working hard. So the point is this, it's about the behaviors. The behaviors are the ones who dictate how engaged I am. And remember, Joyce, I said that having employees engaged does not have to be a painful process. And it could be simple as this. This is a chart that we put up, and we have everybody's name written over there. And we ask them to do one thing. First of all, depending on what the organization wants to achieve, we will say for example, the company wants to achieve better communication. And then we say, fine, you come back in the next 7 days and we want you to commit to one thing, just one thing, to show that communication has improved. And that one thing, the person will put up their hand. I could be, all right, I need to have better communication with the IT department because I'm always fighting with them. I do not know why we can't get along. So I'll have lunch with them at least once a week. So that's a commitment. So the next time we come, when I'm there, I'll ask, well, Ray, what did you do? And they'll say, yes, I actually went for lunch last week with the IT department. And then we mark under Ray the green bar, and so on and so forth. Those that have not done it, it's fine. They get a red mark. But the point is by the time they get to week 12, there's this tipping over where everybody feels that we want to get the green mark. The rule of the game is everyone has to be green. So which means even if one person did not do it, the whole team still gets a red score. We have seen people, in fact, demonstrate that, you know, somebody is having a bit of a problem. For some reason, they're not committing to the thing that they need to do. So we notice that employees will engage that particular staff to find out some of the issues that they could be having. And inevitably, that's what we're trying to do. We're actually getting people to connect. The next step is to get them aligned. And we're talking about having meaningful connections. And if you look at the key that is on the chart right now, we're talking about shared stories to ensure this human understanding. And we do this by asking them to think of a time of adversity that has turned positive. And we get them to share their story. And you know what? When they come in the following week, we will pick, and by the way, we don't pick, sorry, we ask for volunteers. This is what the exercise does. We ask for volunteers, and they will come in and they will share that story. And suddenly, your view of that person and the situation changes because you realize your perception of that person is not what you think it is. They become very human. They're actually very down to earth, and actually they're having a lot of pressures, and just by, you know, listening to them and spending a bit of time, things will actually pan out to be a lot better than what you think and perceive it to be.
Yeah, I like this part, Grace. I think it's about being able to open up, showing your, not afraid to show your vulnerability, and that's where other people would also open up to you too. This is human communication, right?
Yes. And have you ever tried something like that before?
Not on a professional level, but that's what we do when we go out, catch up with friends, right? We open
Yes.
up, we share stories, and that's how we became better. Yeah, I always do that, but it's more with friends, not on a
Yeah,
professional
that's
level.
true. So
Right.
what I'm saying here, you can do the same in the office environment.
That would be awesome.
So emotional connection, right? I hope to see in three things. The company. We want to be aware of where the company is heading, and we want to be part of it. The leaders that we work for, we want to respect them and we trust them. And it is all these close relationships that we have that we become more engaged. To get to the last level that we saw on that chart just now, we're talking about this exercise called sharing the chairperson. And in this exercise, it's like a round table, again, a volunteer. We will get him to sit in the hot seat. And we would ask them to be prepared where all the people will come in to share one strength and one area of improvement for this person. It's like giving this person feedback in a very, very different way. Another word that we like to use in Engage and Grow, feed forward, not feedback. Okay. In other words, do not be afraid when somebody shares something about you. It is seen as a gift. So when we do performance appraisal, let's not be afraid of it. Maybe in performance appraisal, it looks too officious. And I believe it's a very, very uncomfortable situation for both the leader and the employee. So our weekly agenda could look something like this. Remember all the keys that I talked about just now? The outcomes that we want to achieve is dependent on the kind of keys that we put in. And it could be looking at something as colorful as this. I think I'd like to take questions, and I want to close my segment of the discussion here. It's like what the general manager of Telstra says. It helps to transform the vision and mission of the company into something living, into a living culture. And that's what I see. Our behaviors are actually the ones that are actually exhibiting the culture, not what we put on the wall.
Yeah, correct. They're actually the walking statement, walking mission statement of the company. I totally agree. Thank you so much, Grace. Based on everything that you have shared, right, I can actually conclude that there are four main drivers that employees need in order to be engaged. We have four pillars. First, we have meaningful work. Employees should understand their role, be included in decisions that impact the business. And in second pillar, we do require supportive managers for sure. Of course, when you talk about goals, it has to be clear and transparent. Coaching has to be around. And then, of course, third pillar, we have positive work environment, the culture of the organization, and you also have to recognize your employees. And then fourth pillar, we'll be looking at growth opportunity, training and support, talent, skills, heart mobility. It's very important for an employee to grow in an organization.
I'm going to interrupt you here, Joyce. I just realized that we should not discount our process-driven cousins because we are capturing information and we need technology to help us along.
Totally, definitely. This is where my next part comes to. I've actually prepared. So how can Synergita help? Synergita is actually a continuous performance management and employee engagement tool. It is the hardware to actually help organizations engage employees. For example, meaningful work in Synergita, we do have the tool to help provide a platform for frequent conversations. During frequent conversations, you need to talk about the clarity of goals, how you can actually track goals, and how you can provide continuous feedback on your ongoing goals. And managers can even conduct performance reviews every quarter or even on a monthly basis. And also second pillar, when we talk about supportive managers, managers would want to recommend for training, talk about what are the development action plan that we can do to help you grow, and also be clear and have more clarity on your KPI setting. When we go to the third pillar, positive work environment, in Synergita, we do have continuous feedback, appreciation, and awards all on mobile application. Especially, millennials nowadays, they like to use their mobile phone on the go. So Synergita is easily available on mobile at both iOS and Android, just so that they can actually provide appreciation or even an award on the go. So we also have core value ratings. This is something very interesting because we do not see core value just on the company wall. We actually have core values all preset in the mobile app itself. So anybody can provide a core value rating for anyone in the organization at any point in time. For example, being caring is one of the core values in the organization. So if somebody helps me out in the pantry while I was holding my plate and my water bottle, I can actually just provide a thumbs up for in terms of caring to this colleague of mine. So this can be easily done on mobile app, and managers, management, or HR can easily draw out reports to see how each department scores in terms of their core values. And also lastly, we look at growth opportunity in Synergita. We do have a lot of features like recommend for promotion. You talk about career aspirations in 3 to 5 years time. Where do you aspire to be? Will you be interested to look at relocation? And are you interested to working in other departments? These are the things that you can talk about, and you have a platform to help you do it. And also analytics reports, perception gap analysis, strength and weaknesses reports can easily be generated once they have done their performance appraisal.
Joyce, can you maybe help me understand what is so different about your software compared to what we're already having right now?
Right, because all of this, when you look at them, they are features. You understand them as features. But in order to be visual, when you look at Synergita, the user interface is extremely easy to use and user friendliness. So even for all of the employees whereby we have actually who have used Synergita, we don't exactly need to give them a training. We just give them a briefing and they would know how to use it on themselves. It's very user intuitive. And even as for HR administrative, they don't have to worry about learning how do I do this, how do I create a new cycle and stuff like that, because all this HR training, right, it's very, very simple and they can just get a hang of it once the training is done. So it's not about some coding or technical stuff like they got to do.
It just gave me an idea. Knowledge is only a rumor if it's not in your muscles. So I was thinking, right, even as a coach, whenever I go into an organization, and even if I were to stay with them for 12 weeks, what will help them to continue what they have learned? And I just realized that, including this thing about core value ratings, it's
Right.
like the one where you have the chairperson, right?
Yes.
You give one area of
Yes.
strength and one area of improvement. So I can see your technology being of great help to continue the kind of practices that we do as a coach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
First, you talk about knowledge sharing and what you need next. I think that will be knowledge retention. That is very important. Right. So now we're going to do a poll question. Manali will actually do a poll to actually share this question. Are you currently using any employee engagement tool in your organization? We just pause for a while so you can actually select either one of the options, and I'll move on shortly. Okay, good. So now in Synergita, we actually have this vision to create people magic in an organization. For if you have continuous performance management plus employee engagement, Synergita help organizations remove the hurdles their employee face and engage with them to create an extraordinary culture where employees can unleash their potential to set new standards of excellence and create wonders. This is people magic. When you have high employee engagement, definitely you will have high employee performance. As you can see from this, when you have continuous feedback, motivation, recognition, employee development, it all equates to an engaged workforce and high performance. Like what Josh Basin has said, PMS with employee engagement practices is the complete productivity driven solution. So, as I've mentioned earlier, continuous feedback can be easily provided on a mobile app. Millennials nowadays, they actually use their mobile phone on the go. So, continuous feedback wall is something like a social media feedback wall, whereby they can scroll, see what's happening in the organization. Like you're just scrolling Instagram, Facebook on the go. You can see what's happening in the organization, who has received a Rose Star Award. Immediately, you can actually comment on it and say, congratulations on your Rose Star Award, or congratulations on getting the Employee of the Month Award. There was one client of ours who is even interested to put very fanciful awards like Superman, Iron Man, Wonder Woman as part of their award. And there's this gamification function in it whereby you can issue points tagged to a particular award. For example, Rose Star Award actually earns me 50 points. And once I've accumulated 50 points, I can exchange for maybe GV movie ticket or Grab Taxi voucher, NTUC vouchers. So this small instant gratification actually entice the employee to go the extra mile to do more work for the organization. So this is one of the point that I think it's a very interesting feature whereby it has some fun in it, like the government was doing earlier. Grace, you were saying the HPB, the tracking, right? Everybody was doing the steps tracking. So end of 10,000 steps a day, you can actually exchange for some gifts. So it's based on a similar feature whereby you can create this in your own organization. Also, continuous goals management can easily be done on mobile app, whereby, for example, I'm a salesperson and I've closed a deal today. Right after I step out of the client's office, I can immediately update it on mobile app to update my sales target, and my manager will be notified, and they can actually come on to the mobile app to see how much have I closed, how much have I achieved so far. And of course, when you see somebody who has not been updating it for 3 months, then I think it requires for a coffee chat. Okay, so once you've done your performance appraisal, all these reports, powerful analytics will automatically be generated. You can easily see what are the 9-box analyses, what's the perception gap analysis, strength gap weaknesses, etc. Then you can work on the training programs, what is the development action plan in order to move the employee from good to better, from better to the best in order to make them a star performer. So yeah, to wrap up everything, we surely agree that employee engagement is very, very important in order to have high performance in the organization. So we're talking about continuous feedback, we are talking about motivation, we also talk about rewards and recognition, and it boils down to employee development. These are all drivers of employee engagement to actually have an engaged workforce and high performance.
I have not seen your slides before, but after listening to you, I think we share a lot of values in common. You know what that is? We are both looking at simplicity.
Exactly.
Something that we can implement,
right,
and do it quickly and get results. I think this is something I picked up just by listening to your presentation.
Good.
Well, how much time do we have, Manali? I think we need...
Yeah, so we can open the Q&A session.
Sure.
Good. Yes, yeah. We can do that.
Okay, so guys, start shooting in your questions. Meanwhile, yes, you can answer, which I have already received from few people. So here's a question for Grace. Better employee engagement or employee experience is organization-wide discussion or just HR discussion?
I'm so sorry, Manali, you have to slow down a little bit for me.
Sure. Okay. So Grace, better employee engagement is organization-wide discussion or just HR discussion?
Um, I'll try and understand that question, but this is for everybody. It is not an HR question. In fact, it's now become a business strategy question.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So next question is how can management help drive employee engagement?
Okay, I think there are three ways to do this. We need to include employees in the decisions. Okay, first of all, management have to believe it to see it, not see it and then believe it. They have to not underestimate something as simple as this that can actually change things. Leaders, management, they have to engage the staff at a more personal level. They have to show concern with their progress. The most important thing that needs to be there would be trust and respect. And even better, if they can advance the cause of the business, that means why is this business existing? And if it can include every single employee in that same thinking, that will be the best.
Okay. Thanks, Grace. Another question is, we can use surveys or continuous feedback to share feedback on goals, etc. But how do I assess their engagement based on employees' daily work behavior?
Well, like all the leaders or management, they always want proof in the pudding. So you can do it through observation. That means you can observe, give feedback, and that's how you capture the information. But after a while, if it's not something that you think about, you know that you have landed. The behaviors are in our muscles already. It's just like brushing your teeth. You don't think, right, when you brush your teeth, or even when you eat something. It just comes naturally to you. So if you can actually attain that, that will be very, very good.
True, true. So, yeah, so another question is, would being unengaged be a better term to describe the employees who just roll along, neither helping to row the boat forward nor weigh it down, as compared to being disengaged?
What is the word that you said again, Manali?
Would being
Unengaged, is it?
unengaged be a better term to describe the employees?
Unengaged
Hmm.
as compared to disengaged.
I have, well, I'm not very good in the English grammar, but, well, if it means something, why not? It's about what it means to us. That's why, if you remember when I started the conversation, I asked Joyce, what does employee engagement mean to her? I wasn't looking for a dictionary answer.
Right. We all get the meaning. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, so Grace, another question is, what is a recommendation for a murky environment with leaders who do not believe in employee engagement? What is the first step?
You know, I I'm very proud to say that it requires every single one of us to do something about it. When I started in my previous organization, these issues were rather fluffy issues. So what I did was, when I got one or two departments engaged in such activities, after a while, they will start knocking on my door and they will say, Grace, what did you do for those departments over there? We want the same thing. And the word starts to spread. And when senior management see things that are different, they see in the behaviors, they will start asking questions too. Hey, what is it that was done? How come I don't know about it? And when they become aware of it, they might just listen to the employees and try something different. Besides, I already showed you all the business outcomes, right? If you don't do anything, then don't complain that your numbers are not looking good. Because numbers are all outcomes, business outcomes of what employee engagement can do for the organization.
Definitely, Grace. Here's one more question. Management thinks 100% achievement of target is average and more than 100% is good, whereas employees think 100% achievement is good. Expectations of management and employees are always imbalanced. Every system will be successful if there is no human intervention. How do we address this?
That's why it requires more than just brainware. If there is no emotional trust, if I'm not even clear of your expectations, of course there will always be conflict. So unless we have that people to people, person to person, that emotional connection, then I think we can get somewhere.
Okay. So, Grace, how important part does communication plays in employee engagement when it comes to manager and employees?
Communication is the key thing. Communication is a very big word, but it's about connectivity. It's about understanding what the other person is referring to without even saying anything. Now, how do you achieve that if we don't have a people touch, we only send emails. So in the end, you still need to connect with people
Correct. Correct.
emotionally on top of that.
Okay. So, there are some employees who only want to work for continuous 8 to 9 hours and then want to rush for their family. Is it okay to not to push them to get engaged?
Can you repeat that question again? It's a very unusual question. Please say that again.
Yeah, sure. There are some employees who only want to work for continuous 8 to 9 hours and then want to run for their family. Is it okay to not to push them to get engaged? Like they are just interested to work continuously for 8 to 9 hours and then just go back to family.
But how do we know that they're not engaged? It doesn't mean that they want to go back at 5 o'clock or whatever, they're not engaged. You see,
Mhm.
that's the thing. Our perceptions are all not aligned at all. How do we know they're not engaged? You see?
Correct. Mhm. So,
Besides, they're employed for that number of hours. How do
mhm.
you know that the person is not working at home? You see? So these are the things we cannot judge by the time. And it doesn't mean that if you stay late, you are also working hard.
Right,
Hmm.
right. And the 4-hour work week, right?
Is it?
Yeah, so it's actually as long as they are, it doesn't mean matter the number of hours they work, as long as they are engaged and they produce results.
Yes.
Yeah, that's most important.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's why I think management and leaders, they have to look at the world in a very different way. Why is it important now? Look at, I think Manali, you have heard of this word VUCA. It means
Mhm.
volatile. It means uncertain,
Mhm.
uh, uh, ambiguous. So these are the situations that the business environment is in. It changes so fast. And if we're not willing to do things differently, then we will all be left behind.
Definitely. True, Grace. So, Grace, you also talked about organizational values. So, what should be the major points to make sure the employees adhere to their organizational values?
How do we make sure that they exhibit the values? Is that right?
Is correct. Like, what should be the major points to make sure about it that they
Okay,
are adhering?
first of all, the poor values have to be broken down into behaviors. Okay, what does being to be the value of integrity? What does it mean in behaviors? So it's important to break it down so the employee knows. Meaning, as if I if I am able to deliver what my client needs, that's an integrity. Not because I need to close the sale, because that is what the client requires, and I'm giving it to the client to the best of my ability to their needs.
Right, right. If you can describe it to the deepest way, I believe that that's how you can measure it accurately. Right.
Right,
And
right,
that's my
right. Yeah, correct. So, still there are questions coming in, but it's time to wind up a session, Grace and Joyce. So, I thank you all of you to that you attended this session. Hope you all
Yeah.
had a good.
1 second, Manali. Before we wrap it up, right? I just want to thank all of the audience for sure. Then I just want to inform everyone. You know what we have been talking about. Grace is actually a coach to actually coach organizations on how to improve employee engagement. So we're very honored to have here today because she talked all about how employees feel the heart, the heart as in HEART. You know, in Synergita, we have the tool, we have the system, a very awesome system. So we are actually the brainware, the hardware, HARD. So this is how we work very closely to provide an all-rounder solution to organizations. So after this session, if you have more questions with regard to Synergita or with regard to Grace coaching services, please feel free to reach out to us and we will actually forward your mail to Grace directly.
Well, thank you, Manali. It's been a pleasure working with you, Joyce as well.
Yeah, thank you.
And the audience, thank you so much for dialing in. I hope this is not going to be the first and last time. I think it's
more to come.
yes, I'm
For sure.
really interested in this topic of employee engagement. And I just want to share that it's not as frightening
We'll
as
be
it is.
having more sessions with you, Grace. It was a wonderful session with you today. And I hope our audience must have also enjoyed this session and they must have received the information that they were looking for. And
Okay.
also, you guys can share your questions, whatever questions you have at joyce@synergita.com, and we'll be happy to answer them. And also, we'll be sending you the recorded version of this webinar. And once again, thank you, Grace. Thank you, Joyce, for spending time with us and sharing your experiences. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Bye. Thank you.